O mga kababayan, ini-insist talaga ni Atty.Kaufman, na gusto niya talagang makausap si BBM, mga kababayan. Eager siya na makausap si Ngagba dahil ito lang daw, mga kababayan, ang mukhang napaka-substantial na dapat gawin para mapauwi si PRRD. Ewan lang natin, mga kababayan, ha. Kailangan sigurong i-explain ni Atty.Kaufman, mga kababayan, kung paano mangyayari talaga ito. Pangalawang beses na itong niyang sinabi, mga kababayan. Yung dati, ang sabi niya, ang tanging paraan na makakauwi si PRRD, mga kababayan, ng ora mismo ay kung patakausap niya ang ating presidente si BBM na siyang nagpatapon naman kay Tatay Digong sa ICC. Gayon pa man, positibo si Atty.Kaufman, mga kababayan, sa takbo ng kaso at confident daw siya, lalong-lalo na pagdating dito sa interim release ni Tatay Digong, mga kababayan. Panoorin niyo po, ha.
What message would you like to send to the millions of Filipinos who continue to closely monitor these proceedings and support for...
Tapos, ang last day yan, itatanong ni Alvin, anong mensahe ni dating Pangulong Duterte para sa sambayan ng Pilipino? Tapos ang sasabihin ni Kaufman, respect the judiciary process, respect the court, respect the judges. The same old story.
Former President Duterte.
First of all, I would ask all the Filipinos who support the former president to put their faith in the judicial process. Second of all, keep praying for his speedy release.
Always.
With guarantees to the country he requests and for his speedy return to the Philippines. And I have a request from the Philippines administration and government. I'm still waiting to be invited. I want to speak.
Huwag kang Ay, Diyos ko. No point, Kaufman. Bakit gusto mo makipag-usap dyan kay Ngagnag? Ay, nako. No. Sila nga nagpatapon. Anong agenda mo? Bakit gustong-gusto mong kausapin?
Two people. I want to negotiate the former president's return now.
Bakit? Yan ang nakakaduda dito kay Kaufman, mga kababayan. Bakit ini-insist niya na gusto niya kausapin si BBM at magkipag-negotiate para makauwi na si PRRD now? Ibig sabihin, kontrolado ni BBM ang mga judges? Akala ba namin respect the judge? So, si BBM lang pala ang may release ka na.
To the Philippines.
Thank you, Attorney.
Bakit hindi mo tinanong, Alvin, na paano mo gagawin iyon? Kung gayong ang mga judges lang ang mayroong karapatan yan na iparelease si PRRD. Diyan talaga tayo nako-confuse, mga kababayan. Ano ang part ni BBM para makalabas si PRRD dyan? Kung hawak na ng mga judges ang kanyang kapalaran.
Do you believe Duterte was right to withdraw the Philippines from the ICC?
Once again, I'm not going to comment on controversial issues.
Kawawa si Banat pa yun. Hindi na nasasagot ang mga tanong. Pero si Alvin, sagot lahat, mga kababayan. Baka mayroon na silang prior na usapan na eto ba ang dapat itanong Mr. Kaufman? Piliin mo lang ang pwede kong itanong para hindi ka na matanggihan.
So difficult questions.
Sorry.
You have to understand. Everything I say is being scrutinized.
Itanong mo na lang na explain bakit kailangan mong kausapin si BBM at kung makausap mo si BBM, assured ba na makakauwi si PRRD? Sabi niya dati, mga kababayan, sa mga interview, 100% daw, mga kababayan, makakauwi si Tatay Digong kapag makakausap na niya si President Marcos. Why,
It's
Delilah?
not really a question which I need to answer. The simple fact of the matter is he's here now and we have to deal with that.
Last one, Attorney.
Go ahead.
Sir, Atty.Kaufman, how confident are we that the ICC will grant our request for former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's interim release before the confirmation of charges hearing? Is there a high chance that this will be granted?
Personally speaking, I'm always confident.
Always confident.
I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for the judges. We have a judicial process. We've done the best we can. We've argued everything possible. We just hope that the judges will agree.
Thank you, Atty.Kaufman.
Good afternoon.
How is our former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte?
As always, he's in good spirits. Very happy to see his legal team.
Thank you, Attorney. Attorney, after submitting the renewed request for the interim release of the former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, what is the expected timeline for the pretrial chamber to issue its decision?
Aabot pa kaya yan ng September, mga kababayan? Sana ora mismo na yung interim release dahil patagal na yan eh. Baka aabutan ng pre-trial, mga kababayan, at kung sakaling maa-absuelto si PRRD, lalabas na siya.
Well, it's customary that the chambers rule on such requests as quickly as possible. So we anticipate within a week or two,
Okay.
we should have a decision.
Okay.
Based on ICC practice, attorney, are there specific procedural rules and guides how quickly such requests should be resolved?
Well, they should be resolved. The statutory framework
As soon as possible.
requires that requests for interim release are resolved as soon as possible.
Attorney,
1 to 2 weeks? Mayroon ng decision mga kababayan. Crucial yan mga kababayan ha. Dahil kung 1 to 2 weeks, meaning mauuna ang resulta ng mga kababayan, interim release kaysa sa doon sa resulta ng pre-trial. Ibig sabihin, kapag magkaka-interim release si PRRD, malamang sa malamang mga kababayan sa pre-trial, maa-absuelto din siya. Malaki ang tsansa.
regarding your motion to defer adjudication of the jurisdictional challenge, it is correct that the pretrial chamber must first decide on the interim release request before the turning to jurisdiction. Is that what we are aiming for here?
Well, I don't think the sequencing is quite correct there. The chamber can decide on jurisdiction at any stage, even up until the end of the confirmation of charges hearing. We believe that it should be decided earlier, but as you know, we made the request a long time ago, and we're still awaiting a decision on that particular matter. Interim release, however, is a different matter entirely, and the judges normally decide on that type of thing as soon as possible.
So, attorney, it is possible, just to make it clearer, that on jurisdiction, it is possible that the decision on jurisdiction could only come after the confirmation of charges hearing.
At the end of the confirmation of charges hearing, it's possible. However, I believe that the decision on the jurisdictional challenge will be earlier. Interim release, I believe that should be within a few weeks.
Does
Few
that
weeks nga.
affect
1 to 2 weeks daw,
the
Alvin.
strategy of the defense?
Not really. We hope that the former president will be released. We believe he should be released. And we hope that it will
Talaga?
happen.
Oh. At saka mga kababayan ng ICC na mismo ang nagsabi, no? Si PRRD is eligible to apply for interim release. Tapos mga kababayan, nung in-apply, bakit nag-iiyak itong mga animal? Sabi, bakit nga may interim release yan? ICC na mismo nagsabi, pwede siyang mag-apply for interim release.
Attorney, if the court ultimately decides not to proceed to trial, what happens to the unresolved motions such as those
Uuwi na yan.
jurisdictional challenge or
Uuwi na
interim
yan.
release? Will they simply
Uuwi
be
na yan.
moot or academic?
Oh. Kung hindi tutuloy ang trial mga kababayan, uuwi na si Tatay Digo. Ah! Thank you Lord, thank you Lord, thank you Lord. Sana nga mga kababayan, 1 month na lang ang aantay natin.
They will be moot and academic, yes, exactly. I mean, if the case doesn't go to trial, it's because there isn't enough evidence to satisfy the substantial grounds to satisfy the court that the former president committed crimes. So there's no case to answer, as it were.
Attorney Kaufman, on a different matter, media reports claim you withdrew the request to disqualify Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan before the appeals chamber.
Di ba yan ang sinasabi fake news na Inquirer? Oh. Inquirer na pagmamayari ng kamag-anak ni Tambaluslos.
Can you
mga kababayan.
clarify whether this is accurate?
No, it's totally false.
False! Oh, Inquirer! False kayo. Fake news.
That's based on an incorrect reading that some reporter, I forget which journal it was,
Inquirer.
had of something that was published on the website. Unlike you, Alvin, you didn't unfortunately read the fine details. What was published on the ICC website was an earlier motion that we filed in April, where the prosecutor had notified his supposed lack of conflict of interest. We relied on what's called the presumption of prosecutorial regularity. Didn't feel that there was a need to basically contradict what the former prosecutor had said. I say the former prosecutor, the current prosecutor, but he's currently on self-imposed leave. And then, at the end of June, we were suddenly disclosed the motion that he'd filed on behalf of the victims that he had represented. He'd represented more than 100 victims. The number, the nature of the representation were not known to us in advance. That's why we have reintroduced the request for the disqualification of the prosecutor.
Non-disclosure mga kababayan. Nasa rules kasi disclose dapat lahat.
Attorney, if the appeals chamber grants your request and Prosecutor Khan is disqualified, what would be the immediate and
Di ba yun yung may kaso mga kababayan ng kalaswaan? Nakabalik na pala.
long-term significance of these developments?
Well, immediate and long-term significance won't be too great because effectively, as I've told you just now, he's on self-imposed leave because of the allegations made against him.
On leave pa pala
However,
din.
there is an additional aspect to the request to disqualify Karim Khan, We are
Yan mga kababayan, mga, oh Diyos ko, parang mga dilibog din, no? Kalaswaan ang kaso mga kababayan. Oh, ni Karim Khan.
argue that the very fact of his involvement as a victim's representative and subsequently becoming the prosecutor means that the investigation itself against the former president has been contaminated.
Contaminated.
Attorney, does that also mean that there is a requirement to change prosecutorial leadership or potentially delay the proceedings?
No, because at the current moment in time, the person who's handling the prosecution, technically speaking, is Deputy Prosecutor Niang, and there's an American prosecutor who's handling the case on a daily basis.
Attorney Kaufman, media outlets have been criticized for inaccurate or negligent reporting on
Bakit walang mga erratum yung mga media mga kababayan o hindi nako-call out? Nagko-call out tayo lang, no? Tapos wala talaga silang pag-amin mga kababayan na nagkamali sila. Tapos kung ang mga vlogger mga kababayan nagkamali, grabe. Quadcom agad. Kulong.
these proceedings, particularly on sensitive matters. What is your response to this?
Well, I think it's justified criticism. People jump to conclusions on the basis of what they see on the website. They don't bother reading the fine print, and they see the glaring headlines, think
Glaring
it's newsworthy, and
headlines.
immediately publish without applying the brain too much.
Wala pa the brain too.
Do you believe that such reporting could prejudice public opinion or even affect the fairness of the proceedings?
Sometimes it's liable to do so, indeed, yeah.
Public opinion lang.
Attorney, just to piggyback on that, given that during the administration of former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, certain media reports were arguably published with negligence in fact-checking or appeared to have been influenced by external directives, can such
Lalong-lalo na yung mga narrative sila mga kababayan na 30,000 daw ang nagurgur sa campaign ni Tatay Digong na ito. Naratiba lang ng media, fake news ng media mga kababayan na hanggang ngayon ginagamit pa rin nila. Narinig na natin lately sa bilyonaryo mga kababayan. 30,000 daw, wow!
circumstances be invoked to challenge the credibility and evidentiary weight of media-based accounts presented before the International Criminal
Sige, gamitin nyo ng exhibit na etong mga media na nagsasabing 30,000 is eto na nag-example na namimiki ng balita. Kaya, ang punto dito mga kababayan, pwede nang gamitin iyon itong pamimiki ng mga mainstream media sa Pilipinas na ebidensya para eto namang mga judges ng ICC hindi maniwala agad sa kanila dahil ang mga ini-interview nila mga kababayan ay mga dilawan at mga kalaban ng mga Duterte. Politically motivated ito. Kaya dapat hands off ICC.
Well, it's a rather long question, Alvin, but I'll do my best to answer. It's quite well known that at the International Criminal Court, cases start off on the basis of media reports. And in fact, one of the criticisms leveled at the prosecution in the past has been a heavy reliance on open source materials. In the present case, there has been obviously a large amount of media involvement. There's also been, however, a large amount of civil society organizations involved.
Ang lahat ng yun mga kababayan, mga anti-Duterte. Bakit yan ang gagamitin na ebidensya ng ICC? Kumuha kayo ng exact na evidence talaga na talagang dumaan sa investigasyon. Hindi yung dumaan lang sa mga bibig mga kababayan ng mga anti-Duterte na binalita naman ng media.
Victims' representations. The prosecution here have gathered substantial evidence, it must be said. So the case against the former
Isali mo, Kaufman, yung mga kasinungalingan ng media na anong pinagbasihan nila sa 30,000 na nagurgur daw mga kababayan.
president isn't totally relying on media material. I can put it that way.
Attorney, in your recent submission on the organization of the confirmation of charges hearing, you indicated that you will have 30 minutes for your opening statement, 3 to 4 hours to address legal issues, and then 30 minutes
Grabe.
for your closing. Could
So, mga 5 hours mga
you
kababayan.
share how you are preparing
natin
for
yan.
this, especially in terms of structuring legal arguments and emphasizing key defenses?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to litigate the case here in media.
Oo, yeah. Bawal yan. Bawal yang i-discuss dyan.
However, the prosecution and the victims today have published their anticipated schedule for the
So, kung si Kaufman, mga kababayan, mayroong 4 to 5 hours, and then, yung kabilang kampo, another 4 to 5 hours din. And then, ang mga judges, 4 to 5 hours, mga 12 hours na marathon ito mga kababayan na ating aantabayanan. Mahaba-habang usapan
Confirmation
ito.
of charges hearing, and they're basically the same. They're both asking for 30 minutes opening and closing, 3 hours of submissions in the middle.
Do you know, Attorney Kaufman, if the confirmation of charges hearing will be streamed online for public and observers in the Philippines or
Sana nga.
globally?
Sana nga.
100% yes, it will be
Oh yeah! I love it! Mapapanood natin ng live mga
available
kababayan.
online, probably with a 30 minutes delay,
Hindi pala live. Pero at least 30 minutes.
because things can be said that shouldn't be said during a hearing in the open
i-edit.
session. The prosecution have announced that there will be a few instances where they'll need to go into private session, closed session, in order to protect victims or witnesses' interests. We might need the same as well, but the general rule is you try to minimize as much as possible private or closed sessions so that the public can.
Tapos yung mga judges pa mga kababayan, hindi marunong mag-English. Ako. Ang naririnig lang natin, no? Translation. Translation lang mga kababayan. Tapos, ang pag-pronounce pa sa kay Duterte. Duterte! Wala bang magko-correct sa kanila? Duterte yan! Hindi Duterte.
Be exposed to the hearing.
Attorney Kaufman, just to put things in proper perspective and also for the public to have a proper thought on the matter, could you clarify the distinction between the ICC's pre-trial phase and the trial phase?
So pre-trial phase is when
Face.
you're building up to this big hearing, which is going to take place in September, according to the current schedule, the confirmation of charges hearing. This is when the prosecution get the first opportunity to present their case, and the defense get their first opportunity to challenge the prosecution evidence. Essentially, the prosecution have to convince the judges that there are substantial grounds to believe that the suspect, in this case the former president, committed the crimes which the prosecution alleges he committed. This is a higher standard, a higher evidentiary standard than the reasonable suspicion standard, which is sufficient to get someone arrested. But it's a lower standard than the standard which has to be proved at trial, which is beyond reasonable doubt. So it's a kind of somewhere in between standard, and the prosecution have to satisfy the judges that there are substantial grounds to believe that the former president committed the crimes that he's committed of. Once they pass that hurdle, if they pass that hurdle, then you get to the trial phase, and that's when witnesses are brought to testify and their evidence is tested by way of cross-examination.
But there has been already news circulating that almost 300 witnesses have presented.
No, yung mga mga kababayan, mga witness nila nung mga niwi din. Pinakita sa TV. Yung mga ngipin mga kababayan, parang na uubos na dahil sa kangiwi.
Themselves.
So, kagaya ng mga ngipin ni BBM na ang didilaw mga kababayan. Nako, mga witness na mga para ding mga ngag-ngag.
To be witnesses for the case of the former president before the ICC. Does this mean that this is only going to be presented if we proceed to trial phase?
Well, 300 witnesses is double the amount that I'm aware of, so I don't know where these extra 150 have come from. But anyway,
Okay.
be that as it may, the prosecution will announce the witnesses that it intends to rely on.
Sa tingin natin, hindi na naman yan accurate na 300 mga kababayan dahil by now, na-disclose na nila ang lahat ng ebidensyang kailangan nilang iharap. So yung 300, drama na naman yan
It's
mga
not for the
kababayan.
defense.
Doubled. Sabi niya, doubled daw yan. So anong kalahati niyan? 150 lang siguro mga kababayan. Pero gayon pa rin, malayo sa 30,000 na binintang nila kay PRRD.
To decide which witnesses to bring. It's the prosecution who brought this case against the former president. It's the prosecution who have to prove this case against the former president, and they have to do it beyond reasonable doubt,
So
assuming they satisfy the substantial grounds to believe.
Just one more follow-up on that
One
particular
more
question,
follow-up.
Attorney. What kind of decision does the pretrial chamber issue at the end of this stage then?
Whether or not certain charges are
Proceed.
confirmed and
Or not.
suitable to go forward to trial.
Para na rin itong mga kababayan na desisyon kung guilty or not. Initial mga kababayan. Hindi pala guilty or not. Proceed or dismiss. Yan na lang.
Sorry. Atty. Kaufman,
Kung ma-dismiss mga kababayan, uwi na si PRRD eh. Pauwiin nyo na.
given that Arturo Las Cañas, one of the key witness against former President Duterte, now faces an arrest warrant in the Philippines for cyberland. How this affect his credibility before the ICC and the strength of the case against PRRD?
Wow, marunong palang English ito si Banat Bay mga kababayan na. Magaling din. Pero, di ba UP yan si Banatbay, mga kababayan? Pagkaalam natin, sinabi sa UP siya dati. Meaning, talagang mautak, mga kababayan.
I'm not allowed to comment on evidence. You have to excuse me on that. I can't comment on whether or not Las Cañas is a witness or isn't a witness.
Wag na dahil baka ma-technical kayo dyan.
And I can't comment on whatever aspect of his evidence might be relevant or not relevant to the proceeding. You have to understand that every interview that I give is being scrutinized by the judges, by the prosecution, by everybody.
Correct.
So I'm being cautious.
What can we expect for your defense team? Lead by yourself, of course.
Sayang, Banatbay, hindi nasagot. Pero tayo sasagot niyan. Kung tayo ang judges, mga kababayan. Maraming kaso ng libel itong si Las Cañas. At marami ding beses na bumaliktad ito, nagsisinungaling under oath, lalong-lalo na doon sa mga hearing, mga kababayan, sa Senado. Kung ikaw ang judge, mga kababayan, magdududa ka na.
In the confirmation of charges hearing.
A very strong rebuttal of prosecution evidence. More than that, I'm not going to give you in this interview.
Very strong ang rebuttal, mga kababayan. At least, confident si Kaufman na kaya nilang supalpalin itong mga akusasyon ng prosecution. Very strong rebuttal.
Okay. Attorney, this is just something that has already transpired.
Bibilib tayo kay Kaufman, mga kababayan, kung ngayong next month, mapaparelease nila sa PRRD. Bibilib tayo dito. Pero hanggang hindi yun nangyayari. We are watching you, Mr. Kaufman.
The presence of the former President Duterte's children in The Hague is a significant development for all of the spectators. How does this demonstrate to the court that he poses no risk of flight or interference? Or is it connected in that sense?
Paano si Hanilet, Bakit hindi na pinapasok, mga
I'm
kababayan?
not sure how it's connected. I think it's wonderful that they're able to visit their father. I think it would be even more wonderful and amazing if they were able to visit their father when he was released with guarantees to the country he's seeking to be released.
Attorney, just to finally.
Question, not about the
Ay, hindi ka na naman sasagutin yan, Banatbay.
okay? Since you have been with the PRRD for a long time, what do you think is the most misunderstood part of PRRD's?
Ay, hindi na naman sasagutin.
The speeches which have been selectively chosen.
Yan. The speeches. Tama. Tumpak. The most misunderstood ng mga mga kababayan, media, itong ilang tao dito kay PRRD, ang mga speeches niya. Rhetorics yan Tawag dyan, mga kababayan, rhetorics. Na misunderstood ng mga ugok.
People can choose speeches which suit their purposes. But the former president made plenty of speeches which don't necessarily support a policy of extrajudicial killing.
Nakatumbok din si Banatbay, mga kababayan, ng question na hindi na nati-technical.
They don't.
Thank you, Attorney.
He was a person who wasn't shy of using, we put it, colorful language.
Colorful
He's
language.
probably one of the most popular politicians in the Philippines has ever had. And there's a reason
We ever had. Talaga, mga kababayan.
for that.
That's
Do you
correct.
think that the media is intentionally doing fake news so that PRRD would be?
Since lang yan, mga kababayan, sinisensationalize. Yan ang tamang term. Gusto mag-sensationalize ng media dahil gusto nilang kumita The more nila binabalita yan, mga kababayan, the more nahuhook ang tao doon sa balita. Kaya pinipili nila, mga kababayan, itong mga kontrobersyal na mga sinasabi ni PRRD.
Crucified?
I think we'll save those comments for court. Okay?
Wala na naman.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Kaufman.
Thank you. Thank you sa update, ha. So, anong masasabi niyo dito, mga kababayan? Post your comments below.